Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Horror Room. I am Travis Bruce, and today I have a special guest. I have Charles F. Ronay, and he has an amazing book out right now that sounds, as a horror fan, it sounds absolutely amazing. It's called The Book of Top 10 Horror Lists. Charles, thanks for coming on, my friend. How are you?
Thank you for having me. It's funny, but we were together recently at a convention, didn't know
You
it,
know that we were even there.
and I sold out of the book there, which is so amazing.
See,
Just
see,
had a wonderful weekend.
So I actually wanted a copy. I was actually talking to your agent about. I might even talking to you. I was like, "Oh, I need to get a copy of this," and to be able to get a copy and get an autograph by you would have been amazing.
Go
But
figure.
yeah,
If we had we done the interview prior,
exactly,
we could have, met there. But here we were at the same convention, probably getting autographs from some of the same stars, walking
exactly.
around, having a great time, and never connected.
Small world, small world. So, tell us about this book, the book of top 10 horror lists. And I don't know if you see my show, but I do rankings for horror lists all the time. So, tell me a little bit about your book.
Well, what makes it different than any other book out there is I spent a lot of time contacting celebrities, rock stars, actors, horror icons, athletes, authors, you name it, people, who are in the pop culture world. And I'd hit them up for their top 10 lists. And rock stars loved it because they're always asked about music, and here all of a sudden they're able to talk about the favorite horror movies or horror themes and anything they wanted to choose as a topic. And it was doing the bulk of the book during COVID year, during pandemic when everyone was in isolation. So people had a lot of time to do this stuff. it
Yes.
wasn't homework. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm not gonna sit down and do. I got some amazing lists from amazing people, from one of the Beatles, one of the Monkees, one of the Munsters, Boris Karloff's daughter. Really icons in the world of not just horror but entertainment. So it works on so many levels. It's a celebrity book, a pop culture book, and for people in the horror realm who love the stuff we love,
Mhm.
people just eat it up. People just love the book.
So, tell me an individual's top 10.
For example,
Yeah, for example.
we'll just thumb through it. Um, do you remember this guy, Erwin Keys? He was a character actor. He was in the Flintstones. He was in so many movies. So
Yes, I know that face.
he played Joe Rockhead. So just as an example, his top 10, and he went for the classics. He wasn't a young guy. Frankenstein, The Exorcist, House of a Thousand Corpses, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Nosferatu, The Thing from Another World, Bride of Frankenstein, and WrestleManiac, which is
What, what's
the
WrestleMania?
oddball. That's an oddball one from 2008. And you know why? Because he was in it.
Oh, it's an,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what's cool is all the people who gave me their lists had to give reasons why, like write a few words, a few reasons, a few discussions, and some of them got like really, intense and gave real thoughtful discussions on each item. Um, I love sharing that. I had asked John Lennon's sister to give me a list, and she says, "Charles, man, I don't watch horror movies. I don't like it. I've never probably sat through one." She goes, "But leave it with me." She comes back a month later and she gives me a top 10 list on the elements of horror in literature, right? With Shakespeare, with all that. So, some of them really thought outside of the box. Someone did like the 10 sexiest scenes in horror movies, the 10 best theme songs in the films. Um, Elliot Easton from the Cars, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. His was amazing because some of them gave you the obvious ones, and
Mhm.
some of them got really deep and obscure, and some picked some you would never have thought of, like Mark of the Devil and Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. But what I did in the back is I listed all the films that were cited in the film, in the book, in all the stars, and who picked which films. So I'm going to ask you, Travis, give me a horror movie title off the top of your head. It doesn't have to be your favorite. What comes to mind first?
Okay, let's go with The Blob.
The Blob. So some of the people who picked The Blob were Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's,
Oh,
Don Grady, originally from the Brady Bunch. He said, since not the Brady Bunch, My Three Sons.
okay.
He's since passed away. Um, Tony Bramwell, who was the Beatles' publicist, Frank Chickel from the 1910 Fruit Gum Company, Rick Mullen from Poco. So a lot of rockers picked the Blob, incidentally, and that's cool because wasn't that filmed in Maryland somewhere?
No, it was actually filmed close to Maryland, but it was filmed in Pennsylvania. And
Pennsylvania, that's right.
but every year they have a. I was supposed to go to it this year, but I didn't make it. It's called the Blob Fest. So they shut down the
Blob.
whole entire town, and in the actual movie theater, they
Yes.
a big festival, and I'll be there next year for Blob
I've
Fest.
never been, but I certainly heard about it.
Mhm.
And what I did in the back of the book, aside from giving my list, which I didn't want to do, but my editor said you can't put out the book without doing your own list. So I kind of got cheeky on this. I put in a list of my top 10 favorite roles of films that I was in because
Okay.
I've done a lot of acting. But we also did the ultimate terrible top 10 list. So we counted out all the people and all the films they picked and the top 10 list in descending order. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. The Wolfman got 16 votes. Rosemary's Baby, 18 votes. That one surprised me. Alien, 18 votes. Night of the Living Dead, 19 votes. Jaws, 19 votes. Dracula, the original, 21 votes. Frankenstein, the original, 28 votes. And then number 3 was The Shining with 30 votes. Psycho with 32 votes. And the number 1, Paul Shaver, give me a drum roll. The number 1 ultimate terrible top 10 list picked by all the celebrities in this book, The Exorcist.
It's The Exorcist.
You
Every
knew it.
time, every time I interview anyone on my show, I always one of the questions that pop up is, "What is the movie that scared the crap out of you or your favorite?" Exorcist. 80% of the time is Exorcist.
And
So,
I'm looking forward to the sequel. Well, not sequel, the new whatever it is. There have been sequels already, but
mhm.
the new release.
They don't mess it up though. I'm nervous because
Yeah, the
yeah,
likelihood is they'll mess it up. But
yeah.
maybe by the time this is out, I think when this airs, when this show is finally released, I think it's coming out right really soon. Is it Friday the 13th?
I say it's out in the. I'm gonna tell you exactly when it's coming out because
I
I
think
haven't.
next month, Friday
Yeah,
the 13th or October 13th,
yeah,
something like that.
because it's on my calendar. It's October, but yeah, yeah.
I do love the trailers, so I'm hopeful, but yeah, they find a way to screw it up, right?
But David Gordon Green, he screwed up my favorite horror series, which is Halloween. So he did the last 3 Halloweens, and like I'm like nervous because he's the one who's heading up this trilogy.
Interesting, because
Uh,
you sit 10 horror fans down, and half of them loved the new Halloweens, and half of them will destroy it, and and hate the political overtones and all that. But anyway, um, you know what? I'm really proud of the book because everyone who gets it loves it, and it's such a wide variety of just celebrities who you wouldn't even, oh wow, where'd that one come from? I was really proud of the ones I was able to dig up from the most obscure of the actors and rock stars right up to William Shatner, who gave me a list. So really proud of the book.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna sit here while we're talking. I'm gonna go ahead and figure out my top 10 horror movies of all time because I'm trying to think. I can do a top 5, but 10 that's tough. but I'm gonna think of see by the end of this video I'll have my top 10.
By the end of the show, and and give it to me in the same 5 to 1.
So, can I ask you what your top 10 or give me your top 3?
Top 3, in no particular order. The Exorcist is in there, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which I can watch over and over and over because I love me. I love my comedy with my horror.
Yes.
And I'm gonna throw in an oddball, and it's not probably your typical person won't call it a horror movie, but it's the only movie that I remember giving me nightmares as I was older. A House on the Haunted Hill gave me nightmares because of that old lady who zips across at one scene, and that stayed with me for a while to the point I couldn't watch the Addams Family because my grandmama reminded me of her. But anyway, I digress. The one that gave me nightmares years later was actually a home invasion film where the gal is blind and she somehow gets a doll with drugs in it. And Alan Arkin, playing against type, one of the best comic actors of all time, plays a bad guy. And the movie is called Wait Until Dark. And if you haven't seen it, it's worth seeing because it's not a horror movie, but it sure is a suspense film. And I think it, gave way to movies like The Strangers and all the home invasion movies. But it's a thriller. And I remember as a kid, for some reason, going to bed after the film, and dude, people were creeping through my doors. They were breaking in through the windows in my dreams. I was in that half wake, half sleep, where you're like, you have the flu, and then all of a sudden am I awake or not awake? And that was the one movie that really stayed with me for one night. I had nightmares, and so I always remember. And when people ask me, what's your top 10, it finds its way in there only because it had a special personal memory.
Also, see, and I think that it's even like while I'm thinking of my list right now, all of the horror movies on my list, I'm like, okay, there's a reason why it's my favorite, but it's not just because of the character, but like it was a special time in my life. It's something.
Yeah, there's another one I always mention because I know so many people either love it if they know it or if they haven't heard of it. It's like, huh? Is a movie that is a musical horror, kind of a spoof. Came out, around the time of Rocky Horror Picture Show, and starred Paul Williams. It combined Faust, Dorian Gray, Phantom of the Opera. It's a film called Phantom of the Paradise, and it's one of my favorites. And it's one of those that when I say to people, if you haven't seen it, see it. It's now the music is cheesy because it's 70s. Really, it was a movie of its time, but it incorporates so many other horror themes in a great way. I've probably seen that movie 100 times.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's if you watch, I mean, I actually noticed like everyone has if you ask them their top 5, there's that one or two that everyone has on their list. Halloween, Exorcist,
Psycho, right? Yeah.
Psycho, but there's always
that oddball.
at least 2 oddballs. You're like, what is that movie? What are you talking?
Yeah. Very cool.
So, let's shoot over to something else.
Yeah.
Working on. So
first, let's tell everyone that the book's available on Amazon.
Yes, it's on Amazon.
And if they want a signed copy, you can do that through my website, which is kind of the title of the book, www.bookoftop10lists.com. You take off the, so it's Book of Top 10, the number 10, bookoftop10horrorlists.com. And it's got our email and all the ways to reach me so I can, personalize a copy.
Okay. Now, are you going to be, I know you're in Baltimore, but right now, are you going to be, well, we got something going on in November that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Are you going to be at any more other conventions between now and November?
I usually go to Chiller, which is a real major convention. But because I have a Halloween business and I do the Dracula tours, it's very hard for me to break away in October. I usually go in April to Chiller.
Okay.
And last Chiller, I went as a handler. It was the first time I brought a guest. I had a musical guest with me. So I'm hoping in April to have another guest with me because it's really cool to be like next to the guest and take care of their business, but also have the table next to it and sell my Beetle books, my ghost books, and now my horror books, all three of them. And you know, like you know, we go to shows, we meet the stars, we get the autographs, we have a great time. I still do that, but I'm also on the other side of the table, which is a great feeling.
Yes. Like even when I go to the conventions, like yeah, I get the autograph stuff, but I'm also filming content for my channel. So
Yeah,
I do a walkthrough of every convention and I post it up so that someone who's never been to that convention, you can kind of see what that convention looks like. And every convention has its good, bad,
yeah,
and ugly.
their own
So
personalities. Yeah,
mhm.
I love conventions. Yeah, and literally in the convention business since the 70s,
Oh, wow.
and just still love going as a fan, as a vendor, as a handler, any of the above.
And you can find some good, I mean, you know, authors, you can find some good reads there. I always leave with one book.
Yeah,
Actually, a whole stack right here that I still haven't
yeah,
read. Last couple conventions, and then even from this weekend. So
yeah, yeah.
you can definitely find some good reads there as well. So I wanted to talk about something you brought up, the Dracula tour. So last year, I was looking on Facebook, and this is before I even know who you were or before your
Right.
agent reached out to me, and I seen this Dracula tours to Transylvania. And I was like,
Real
wow,
deal.
that's fucking amazing. Like, what is this? But like timing wise, it just wasn't going to work out. And then your agent reached out to me and
Yeah.
like, you know, hey, you got to, you know, I have a client and he runs the Dracula tours. I'm like, oh my God, he's the Dracula tour guy? Yes, I want him on my show. So please tell us about the Dracula tours to Transylvania.
Yeah. You know what? It's started in '98. This is the 25th year of doing them. And did it like in the beginning, are we going to get, you know, into Eastern Europe? I mean, this wasn't westernized then. It was a, you know, it was a third world country. Forgive me, Romanians, but you know, it was behind the times. There was outhouses, you know, instead of cars, there was, you know, horse and buggies in the streets. And we thought, could we get into a place? We found a great tour host and combined forces. And my goal was to follow in the footsteps of Dracula and Bram Stoker from the novel, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to do what Jonathan Harker did as he went up the Carpathian Mountains through the Borgo Pass, you know, really following his footsteps, and combine that with the history of Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Tepes, so that half the trip is the fiction, the fun, the fantasy of Dracula, and half the trip is the history and the, you know, the Vlad, who's, you know, there's the most amazing Vlad the Impaler, one of the most amazing rulers of all time. And we visit not just Dracula Castle, which is, you know, the tourist attraction, and Bran Castle, which is the one you see on all the posters. And if you see anything about that, that's the castle that's on everything. But we go to Pinieri, which is the ruins, Vlad's ruins. And it's just everyone who goes on this trip, and you know, you can go, I say this is what I use as a comparison, go to your best restaurant, and they're gonna have that off day where the soup's cold or the steak wasn't done the way you always love it. And everyone goes on this trip and it's 100% satisfaction. Travis, the people go have the greatest time because everyone who's going on the trip has, you know, the same interest. They're all going on a vampire vacation. This is like a dream come true for them. And no matter how old they are, and I say that because years ago there was always these trips to Romania if you were a senior citizen, and you would go and you go from 9 to 5, and they would take you after breakfast to the countryside, and you do some touring and maybe see one castle.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they would take you to Vlad's birthplace, maybe. And that was their version of a Dracula tour. Well, ours is 1 week of that. And then it's not 9 to 5, it's 9 to midnight. You know, when it gets dark, that's when the other stuff starts. That's when we have our costume bazaar. That's where we, that's where we have a dance party. That's where we go to, the Gothic clubs. It's really just beyond amazing. So the people who go there, who it's like their bucket dream list, and they're in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, they come back and they're just like, wow, this was it. And people who are young, we get people, in their 20s and 30s, and they come as singles, as couples, as families, and just everyone has just the greatest time. I went the first 12 years, every single year, and hosted it along with the guy Radu, who's my Romanian tour guide. And we go to Sighisoara, where Vlad was born. We go to Snagov Monastery, where his bones were supposedly buried in the monastery. We go to every possible, the Black Church in Brasov, the place where all the people were impaled. We go to every possible site, torture museums, you name it. And the people just can't believe how many things we fit into an entire week. And Radu, who is my tour guide partner, he does it all now because he gets it. He's, first of all, a world-class historian, literally a professor of Romanian history and knowledge and everything that goes. But he's a fan, as a Dracula fan like we are. So if there's a 2-hour trip, all of a sudden he'll pop a video on the screen so people on board can watch Nosferatu or watch one of the great Bram Stoker's Dracula. And it's really funny. One year we really timed it so great. We showed the Klaus Kinski Nosferatu. And as we were going up the Borgo Pass through the Carpathian Mountains, it started to pour. And it was on the screen, the same movie, with Jonathan Harker going up to the castle. And it was the same places we were going, literally the same mountains in the same weather. And that was just one of those serendipitous moments that we've never been able to recapture, but the timing was so great.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Right?
All right. So, as a fan of Dracula, and I've heard of Transylvania, don't really know anything about it but Dracula. What are some good food to eat in? What is in Transylvania besides?
Well, no, it's funny you ask that, because we go to the same restaurant, the Crown, where Jonathan Harker apparently stopped for Robber Steak, Robber, on the way, and that's what the meal consists of, steak. Otherwise, it's lots of pork. It's lots of red brandy, which is the same drink that Jonathan Harker had, but it's whatever people want. We include a few dinners. We have a welcome dinner and a farewell dinner, and then the big costume ball dinner. We include those in the trip. So you can pick whatever you want off the menu. But it seems that a lot of the spirits are imbibed. A lot of people take advantage of the brandy there, and it's strong stuff, I'll tell you.
Now, is it a beautiful country?
Oh my God, the countryside is magnificent. Oh, it's beautiful. It's lavish. It goes on forever. Parts of the mountains that were, very uncultivated, for lack of a better word, are now ski lifts. They've really, really modernized. Yeah, the where we go to the Snagov Monastery, and it's we used to have to cross by paddle boat through a moat to get to the Snagov Monastery, which is on Snagov Island. And now, there's motorboats, and it's all surrounded by luxury homes. When we first went there, it was dirt roads and shacks. But because it's waterside, and because, people from the country discovered, these areas, it's actually gotten more beautiful and more civilized as the years have gone on. Less and less horse and buggies going through the roads. Far few outhouses next to the people's homes where they they didn't have the facilities, but it's a combination of that old time charm with, we take the people around on a luxury, and we take a Mercedes luxury bus when we take the people around. So it was really crazy in the days when we first started, and we go through these villages where people never saw tourists and never saw bus, of those magnitudes. Some of the years when we first started and people were like, holy cow, there's such a thing as a Dracula tour. We got over 100 people. So we were filling up 2 buses, and the kids from the neighborhoods would run to the buses just to look at it. And we'd come off and we'd give them all candy. We'd have like Halloween goodies with us. And it became a point where year after year, they would remember that we were coming, and they would wait for goodies.
Now, all right. So if I'm coming on a tour, room and board or accommodations,
Yeah. So the question is not what's included. The question is what's not included.
Yeah.
It's a few meals, your lunches, and souvenirs.
Okay.
That's it. We include the transfers from the airport. We include all the hotels, and we stay in Bucharest. We stay in Brasov. We stay in trying to remember what other towns, and we include all the admissions, all the attractions, all the parties. Literally, if someone doesn't buy souvenirs and they only eat a couple meals a day, they don't even have to bring extra money. We call it a pretty much all-inclusive trip. And the fact that the dollar goes so far there, when we first started, we'd bring home these woolen sweaters that had castles on them, which would probably cost $200 in the States, and they were like $1.50, And then as the years went on, well, it became $10 or $15, but it was still a steal. They were all homemade stuff, and kind of everywhere we go, there's those flea market, they call them bazaars, and they have that stuff. They have the little witchy vampire dolls that you can get, and hand-drawn pictures of the castles. So that's a big part of the trip, is the souvenirs that you bring home. There was a time I would always bring home stuff and then set up a chiller and have like a table of nothing but the stuff I brought back from Romania and from Transylvania. And I miss going back. I mean, if one of these days I want to do like a non-Halloween time trip, it just makes sense to do it every Halloween, because the general person, that's when they want to spend Halloween in Transylvania, and Dracula's castle. But a few years when we had overflow, we were drawing just ridiculous numbers before, pandemic, and when the economy was a lot better, we also did a summer version of it. And it was just gorgeous. And we would do it every June or July. And so if we ever do that again, I'm going to go again, because I miss it so much.
So what's the weather like in Halloween?
Yeah, so kind of like on the East Coast, you might have flurries, you might have a little snow, or you might have warm weather. You know how the world has changed, and it's unpredictable, right? We remember one year we had to come back from the mountains, and when you come back, it's not a straight drop, because the road would be the incline would be ridiculous. So it's a long and windy road, and it started to get snowy and icy, and the bus driver said, do we do it? And we're going, yeah, do it. And he did it. He waited till he felt it wasn't icy enough, because one year out of 25, it was a cold Halloween in Romania. But most of the times everyone's just wearing maybe t-shirts or hoodies, and it's usually warmer and nice, and it's always sunny. Even when it's cold, it's sunny.
Okay. Age restriction?
No such thing. If someone wants to bring a kid along and they feel the kid will have a good time, it's never a problem. On any tour we do, any event we do, I do a lot of paranormal investigations and all that. I feel that if an adult trusts their kid and knows their kid well enough to come on an event, whether it's a tour, whether it's a happening or a convention, we're cool with it too.
Okay, cool. And when is the next tour scheduled? Is scheduled for this Halloween?
Well, it's the same dates. It's literally the same dates every year. We do October 27th through November 3rd, so that we can spend, Halloween night perfectly. This was one year, believe it or not, where a family brought their daughter. She was a preteen, I think, and she dressed up as Wednesday, and her mom and her dad dressed up as Adams. And coming here, and we had these 2 Nosferatus. It's a really cool photo, and that's me as I don't know what, as Crypt Master Chucky. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes, I see it.
The ghostly creature there. But that's one of the things we tell people. They go, "How do we dress?" And I go, "I don't care what you bring, but bring your sexiest, scariest, most creative thing for the one night that we all dress up." And people have just gone over the top with it, and it's really amazing what we've had. In fact, what
Mhm.
you should do is go to the website, which is dractours.com, DRACTOURS, and press tour reports. And there's, from past years, not every year, but we have tour reports with photos from every year. And you're going to see some amazing years of people just getting uh, dressed up. These things would win awards at conventions. They're just amazing the way the people took it so seriously.
What's one costume that sticks in if all these years sticks out in your mind? You're like, that was wow.
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Um, so one year I kind of got a read on everybody, and it was a very, very goth crowd. And I knew we were, that this was going to be everyone was going to be dressed in black. And it was the one year, and I'm cheating on the answer because it's me. I
Mhm.
dressed as a psycho clown, but you have never seen a more colorful clown in your life. I
Uh,
had the red hair coming out this way, blew up in the air like it was Marge Simpson, the biggest bulbous nose, and I was in character. The whole time I was in character as this sardonic clown. Uh,
but-
so yeah, I have as much fun with it as the people do.
all right, so I have a question. This is a personal question for me. I want to come next year. Now, can I take a video before?
Absolutely, we even put that in the materials. Take as many pictures as you want, shoot as much video as you want, but make sure I get a copy because I want to see what I'm missing. Sibioi was the other town that we also go to, and it's really unique because all the homes have air ducts on the top floor, but they're shaped like cat's eyes. So the whole city, as you're walking around, you're looking at cat's eyes.
Wow.
That place has the Liars Bridge, which I don't want to give away too much of what there is, but there's also a bat park. And you go there, and after dark, there's thousands of bats just circulating in the park, which is perfect for someone who's on a Dracula tour. And in that area, Sibioi, it has is it a cemetery or a monument? But it has the only place that has two tombs that have connections to Dracula and Frankenstein. And I'm not going to give away why, but it's pretty special. Yeah.
I'm definitely interested. Listen, I saw this a year ago. And I was like, oh my god, I want to go. I'm gonna tell you the reason I didn't go was because I still was worried about the whole COVID traveling thing.
And
Yeah,
that affected, for 2 years we didn't do tours. And then last year our numbers were way down. This year they're up a little. But I got to tell you, pre COVID, the numbers were just great because people like yourself hear about it and it's, this exists. I can't believe it. I want to go.
but
And for years, I don't do it anymore, but I would go to Horror Find, Monster Mania, Chiller, all the conventions, Monster Bash, and I would just give out flyer after flyer. Everyone who walked through the door, the escalator at that hotel. I would stand at the bottom of the escalator, and you couldn't walk by me without me giving you a flyer. So for years and years, every horror human kind of knew about the Dracula tour, especially on the East Coast.
by the way, I don't know if you heard or not. This is the last year for that. So the Monster Meeting is coming up next month in Hunt Valley. This is the last year for that hotel. Apparently, they're demolishing that hotel or
Yeah,
something.
they're leveling it. The Hunt Valley Delta Marriott, which has been a mainstay for conventions for so many years, dating back to Horror Find, and that was one of the great conventions. The promoter passed away, so it stopped. But yeah, it's sad. I don't know what they have there. A giant car lot. I don't even know, but it's a shame because the space in there is so perfect without it being a convention center.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
That's one thing I said about I don't know if you've ever been to the Monster Meeting in Cherry Hill,
Yeah, of course.
and it's so I don't know. It's just so cramped.
Yeah, it's a different event. I mean, different shows have different vibes. The one that Martin puts on is a nostalgia convention, obviously, and it's not horror centric, but it's a cooler vibe. It's casual. It's looser. There's a lot more space, and it's a lot spread out. And Monster Mania is like shoulder to shoulder, but it's
Mm.
shoulder to shoulder horrors. It's concentrated on monster stuff. Even Chiller, which started out as being, more of a horror convention, is more of a celebrity show now. You'll have your horror people, but it's from, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people are complaining. It's horror fans are complaining about Chiller. I actually like it. I like that, you with Chiller you can get a little bit of mixture of horror and you can also see the cast out of one ears, It's like a
No,
nice mix.
Killer's the now it's the granddaddy of conventions.
Yeah.
If I get an act that has never done a convention and they say, well, which one should I go to? It's Chiller's the first one I come up with. And
Hmm.
then I check out the others. Like one of the reasons I went to the Mid Atlantic Nostalgia Convention was I have a celebrity that wants to go in the future. Would have gone this year, but I said, let me check it out first and see. It doesn't have to be 10 million people going there, but it's the right vibe of people, the right, collectors, the right. It's not as like you said, it's not as claustrophobic.
Exactly. All right. And are there any more spots for the Dracula tour for this year?
Yeah, there's two spots. Yeah, we can fit people in, but they have to let us know pretty quick, obviously,
Yeah.
because we got to get them airfare, and then we're also booking for 2024.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Let's shoot over to something else. This is something that's important to you, special to you. You love paranormal.
I
So,
do.
yeah. So
Only
you
recently though, Travis, because I've
only
been I've been a horror kid. I call myself a monster kid. I used to buy the monster models and get famous monsters of Filmland. So for me, the paranormal thing is relatively new, 5 6 years. But I really jumped into it. I had a partner who was very much into the whole realm of paranormal, and all the psychic stuff and all that, which led me to put out a book called True Ghost Stories of Connecticut, with a forward by the amazing Kreskin. And what made this book a little different than the rest is that it had two criteria. One was that it had something to do with my home state of Connecticut, and it had to be true stories. And that was just part of my bigger picture because I produced Paracon with two N's, which is the paranormal convention in Connecticut. And that kind of gave birth to the Salem Paranormal and Horror Convention in Salem, Massachusetts, which made so much sense because there were all kind of conventions there, and they were smaller. And I always thought, well, there should be a major paranormal and horror convention. And we did the first one last year, and people had such a great time. And it wasn't like a Monster Mania where it was really, really wall to wall humans. It was one of those looser goosier shows like the one we were just at, where people can hang with the guests. They didn't feel rushed. The lines weren't forever. We all one giant room. So everything that's on stage, all the guest speakers, all the events, all the vendors and everyone else can hear it too.
wow.
It's not like separate rooms. That's one of my things I really love to do when it comes to conventions, so that if you're with one person and you're getting a card reading and all that, and all of a sudden something's happening on stage, you're not, oh no, I got to leave the card, I got to leave this reading, and I got to go into a separate room. Will I find a seat? It's all in one place, and people love that. And the other great thing is, if you're familiar with Salem, Massachusetts,
Hmm.
there's no place to park in the city. It's that's its biggest horror, is not being able to park. So
Yeah.
we have it at Salem State University and the South
Nice.
Campus gym area, where there's unlimited parking. So we really gave it a lot of thought. And the convention is this year, November 11th and 12th. Uh, Tickets are cheap, and it's Salem Paracon, one N, SalemParacon.org. And all the information is there. All the guests are going to be there. A lot of paranormal guests, and in the next few weeks, we're going to announce our horror guests. And I'm really excited because it's some that haven't been overused, some that are a little more obscure, and they're fun. And I try to get guests who I like, who are fun. Last year we had one. She was only in a few horror movies, but she was better known for other roles. And we had and I forgot her name. Forgive me, Christy, somebody. And then the other one was Hal Hawkins, who was in originally Night of the Comets, I believe, but then he was also on Fear the Walking Dead. So we
Okay.
had a few, really cool guests, but they were the kind of guests who wanted to walk around and meet the paranormal guests.
Mhm.
We had Arnie Johnson, who was from The Conjuring, the real deal guy. And this year we're actually bringing the amazing Kreskin, and he's been around forever. And he fits at a paranormal convention because when you think of paranormal, you think of the Warrens, right? And when
Mhm.
you think of magic, you think of Houdini. When I think of mentalism, and I think of that whole, how does he read minds? How does he that whole thing? Kreskin comes to mind, and he's an OG. I mean, he's been doing it forever. So it's great to have him, still kicking around and still be able to be at the show.
That's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
are you offering any VIP passes to the
Yeah,
convention?
we do a VIP pass, which gets you in earlier, gets you front row seating, probably throws you a gift. And forgive me, I don't know the pricing on it, but if you go to the website, there's a link to the tickets, and there's a cheap ticket, and then maybe for another $5 or $10, it's a VIP. I know we don't gorge people on the pricing.
Nice, nice. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you get a both of both worlds. I mean, the best of both worlds. You get the paranormal side and you get the horror side. So,
Yes. So you're walking down the vendor aisle, and you got someone who does the tarot readings. Well, the next person over might have, horror memorabilia. And then the next person might have candles. And the person after that is a fortune teller. And after that is, monster, I don't know, artwork. So
yeah.
it's really the stuff we love all in one place, but variances thereof. There was, I think, the one guy we had last year who blew my mind was a Ouija board guy who had like every variance of Ouija boards from foreign countries and different editions, and that was his, vendor booth. So that was pretty cool too. And we have
Nice.
food truck, and we have, a whole other seminars in another room. So it's gonna be exciting this year. We're upping the ante.
Now, how far is Salem from Baltimore? I mean, not from Baltimore, Boston. How far
How
of a
far? Within an hour, probably half hour.
half-hour drive? Okay.
I'm not sure because a lot of people fly into Logan and go to Salem from there. But from where you are, it's
Oh, that's
probably
fine.
it's probably 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I was like thinking if I was going to do it, I was going to fly into Logan, and then
Yeah.
how far of a drive is that from there? So,
Yeah, it's not far at all. That's the closest. Definitely Logan Airport in Boston is the closest airport to Salem. I probably should know, but off the top of my head, like we have a hotel that's connected. I don't even know that too. The problem is, Travis, when you got 50 projects going on, I, I get to the point where someone, emails me a question. I can't answer them right away. I gotta type it in and look it up myself. I should know, but I don't.
well, let's shoot to one last project you're working on. You're working on a movie.
I'm always working in movies. I've done so many. I wish I had a flyer that had all my roles. But you know what I love doing? I love doing grade Z horror. I'm not SAG. I'm not after. I'm not union. But if a film pops up and they're looking for a dad, they're looking for someone who buries grade, whatever they look for, I'll submit. I don't care if it's a lead. I don't care if it's a. But some of the ones, I'll tell you some of the things I'm proud of. If you remember HBO's Flight of the Concords, I got to play Elton John on that. Believe
Did
it or not, yeah, yeah. I was on ESPN. The Bronx is Burning. Um, some of the I was with Tom Savini in a movie called The Sadist, and a few years ago, brilliant filmmaker, put out Eric Bloomquist put out a few movies, but Night at the Eagle Inn, and I got to play this demented cross-dressing debutante.
Whoa.
But what's cool about that, and that
I-
movie and The Sadist, if you can find the trailers, I'm the first voice you hear in both of those trailers. So even if I'm in the movie for 20 seconds or 20 minutes, the fact that I'm the first voice you hear in the trailers, I'm really proud of. There's also a series of independent films called Tiny's Halloween, Tiny's Friday the 13th, Tiny's all this. And he's this clown who, if you don't give him trick or treats, well, he sort of gets angry. And I play the lead in Tiny's Friday the 13th. I think that's the title of it. So that's worth Googling. And another one is called The Zombie Chronicles. There's a three part episodes on that one. There's 3 to them, and I get killed in one of them, but I do a nice speech before I get killed, and it's one of those. It was a headshot where. And I saw the effects afterwards. I'm like, oh, I get killed in so many films. It's not even funny. I was killed with a staple through the head, gunshots in the neck. I was in a movie called Pink Eye, which when I saw the rushes and I was on the set, I thought, man, this is going to be the next great serial killer. And what I was an escaped, no, not an escaped. I was a in-house psycho patient, and I attacked the lead, and he kills me with a crowbar through the neck. So it was a real great prop because it had the top of the crowbar and the bottom, and I'm on the, and I'm dead on the ground with the blood pouring out. When I saw the rushes and I saw the stills, I go, damn, it looks great. And on the film, you don't even see the action. You don't see it. It didn't translate, unfortunately. But at one point, the hero was walking through the insane asylum, and they said to some of the guys, well, do something in the background. So I want to do something creative. And I walked backwards. And they didn't notice it till they watched and they go, what? This blew their mind. So, I love doing that to the directors or the producers of a thing where I can throw in that extra little something as my creative acting bit, which, is never in the script, but doesn't cross the line of, I won't change script. Normally I won't read off the words, because if someone took the time to write what they wrote and then they reviewed it and they wanted it that way, I'm going to try to deliver it as good as I could. But if I can do something else visually, I was in another one called Halloween House, and I just totally did this, gangsterish, with the physicality, and he loved it because it wasn't just a straight read. I had all the, body language to go with it. So I'm really proud of a lot of the stuff that I did, even if 100 people saw it or 1,000 people or whatever. It didn't matter because I get a lot of joy. But no, I don't have acting stuff coming up. I have a lot of it on hold because I'm so busy with all the other projects. What I have a lot of is library appearances and book signings, and a lot of events where I get to talk about my books, read from them, and then get to sign copies of them. That's been a real, just an utter joy.
And that's crazy that our paths.
We probably bumped you and said, sorry, boss.
I was walking
you probably walked by my table and you were like zoned. You were in convention mode, where sometimes you're like, where's George Hamilton?
I was a guy that was walking around with a camera. I was doing the
really.
Yeah, so I'm surprised that I didn't stop at your table, because I always stop. I don't know if you see my videos for conventions, but I always stop by at least 5 authors' table and give them a quick plug on the videos. I'm surprised I missed your table completely.
I was next to, I'll tell you, on the corner was this not Rewind. I forgot. They have all these retro magazines. They had hundreds of them on the table, with different covers: Superman, Star Trek, Batman, all that. Then it was Baltimore Con, the comic book people.
Okay.
And the sci-fi people, the Baltimore Sci-Fi Convention.
I walked right past you. I don't know how I missed it.
And then it was me. Across from me were 2 authors
who
had their stuff. Maybe you didn't make it to that aisle, or maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have been sold out that day. So,
well, you would have still seen the posters for the book, and you would have said, "Hey, I'm interviewing you."
I know. Because I think it was either you or your agent was saying that he's going to be at a convention, and I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. Like, I don't know if he's in Baltimore.
Well, he didn't book me for that, so I don't know if he knew that I was in Baltimore. He knew I was in England for 10 days, which is why we couldn't do the interview any sooner. Mm-hmm. But maybe he did mention that.
We had to push the time back because time, but he was like he was going to be at a book.
The later the better, and
and I was like, oh, and I did not put 2 and 2 together. That maybe he's in Baltimore at the same convention. But
No, I mean, what would be the odds, that you wouldn't have thought of it, and I wouldn't have known that you were from that area, so there's no way I would have,
Exactly.
connected it either.
All right. So I got one question for you. This is
Yes.
off topic. Horror movie. So you're telling me your top favorite. What is your number one horror movie that you're like, this is the shittiest movie? I would not recommend this movie to anyone. I'm gonna say the most recent horror movie that you've seen that you were like, wow, this is a piece of garbage.
I've seen a bunch of good ones lately. Um, I'm I'm this kind of guy who, no matter how bad they are, find something to like about it, whether it's one actor's, performance or I'll give you an example. There was an independent film by a director who directed me, and he put out a film that I hadn't heard about, and he sent me the link to watch called Slapface. You probably never heard of it. And I'm thinking, all right, it's okay, it's okay. And then as I'm watching it, I'm like, wait a second, there's two levels to this film. There's the obvious, and then there's a whole nother subtext that I'm like, whoa. And so sometimes the movie, it takes me a while, and then okay, that's why it's special. It was one movie I saw in the theaters recently, which I really loved, and I always forget. Talk to Me, is that the title of it? It's the hand, and they
I
talk to
want to
me.
see that. Yes, I heard that
I
from.
loved it.
I
So
heard it
it's
was
hard.
amazing.
I love. I didn't like the voyage of the Demeter. I don't even know how to pronounce
Yeah.
it. Last voyage, and it had, it was a Dracula theme. You would think I would love it, but I wasn't crazy about the Dracula creature. So there's movies that even if I like them, I'll find, well, it could have been better because of. But it will take me. It would be harder to rack my brain and think of a movie that was just pure crap that I didn't like, as opposed to something that was, okay. I mean, so many movies recently I loved. I loved The Blackening. Going back to last year, I loved Bodies, 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 and The Black Hole. And it was just so. There's been more quality horror movies than Drek. And
Right.
I try to see them all, and I got, teenage kids who I try to see them with. And sometimes I want to see a movie and I can't because no, you can't see it without us, kind of thing. So there's sometimes some of that. But wait, we can't go without you telling me some of your favorite horror movies. That
Yeah,
was what.
I'm gonna do that. But like ever since I've been doing I interview indie horror
Yeah.
directors. That's my
Yeah.
sh- right.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Before I was on it, I was doing movie reviews and I was bashing horror directors.
Right.
So and I was like, that's not fair. A lot of these individuals are making low budget, and like you said, there is something in them that are great. But
Uh
there's
oh.
one
Uh oh.
that bothers me because it was clearly a cash grab and it was clearly a slap in the face for all else. And that's that new Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey horror movie.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's the biggest piece of shit.
Well, what about is that similar to the Banana Splits one?
No, it's worse than that. I mean, this one, I mean, it's at least the banana splits. You can see that they put some money into it, and they put some creativity in it. This one is literally it's like someone took they Winnie the Pooh went up for domain public domain,
Yeah.
and they grabbed it and they just went to Party City and got the shittiest
Uh,
Winnie the Pooh costume and like it just made it into a low budget killer movie and just but tossed on there Winnie the Pooh and it was just like but you
no, I
were
haven't seen it, and
yeah,
you know what? I never really had a desire to.
don't see it
Yeah.
don't I mean and I see a lot of
Now I
fans
have to see
like
it,
it's
Travis. I got to see it now to see if,
yeah,
if I hate it much.
hard. I get shit in my comments because I talk to directors. I'm just like, oh, I love that movie, but you got to realize, and I'm shit like, well, someone says, well, that movie is fucking horrible. Well, how do you like that movie? But you got to realize, I gauge as I guess, a movie reviewer or someone who watches movies. I gauge in a horror connoisseur.
Yeah.
I grew up in the '80s, and I was a trauma, a Full Moon. I am a B movie guy. So
Sure.
if you started watching horror movies in the '90s, in the 2000s, you're in that Scream era, right?
Yeah.
Where horror movies have quality
Yeah.
to, quality,
Yeah.
great acting, all that good stuff. But if you are from the 70s, 80s, early 90s horror movies, you respect the cheese. We respect
Yeah,
the
yeah,
you
yeah,
respect the bad acting. You
sure.
respect the horror
Yeah,
movies are
I
fun.
agree.
They're fun. They're
Yeah,
cheesy.
yeah, yeah.
That's what they meant. But that's the one. But here's my top 10. Okay, I went on a rant. But
Right.
here's my top 10 in no particular order.
Okay.
Number one, the original Scream.
Yeah, it's classic. Great.
Wes Craven's
Phenomenal.
favorite horror director of all time, and I
Love
mean,
it. Love it.
something
Love it.
new. It was something fresh.
And you
Loved it.
know what? Similar to the Rocky series, even the worst of them, I love them all. But
Me,
no, yeah, you too. Yeah, but no, the first one was yeah,
even even the last one, part six, I put that. That was
great,
so good. It was
great.
so good. It's right there, number two on my list of all the Scream movies.
Love it.
Yes. Number two is the 1978 Halloween. I love Michael Myers. Michael Myers, he's not my favorite horror movie character, but he's a close second. But if you ask me what my favorite horror series is, it's
Yeah,
definitely not Halloween. I mean, there's a lot of stinkers in that trilogy, but I mean, I just love the character of
yeah.
Michael Myers.
I
I just love
agree.
growing up.
Groundbreaking,
Yes.
groundbreaking. Great.
I mean, there's
Music, the acting, the suspense. It was yeah, phenomenal.
people debate Jason or Michael Myers. It's Michael Myers every single time. Jason is just a cheaper knockoff.
Yeah,
Uh, but well, Jason doesn't have the substance that Michael Myers has to me.
right. Yeah.
Number three is this is a random one. Henry, the portrait of a
Oh
serial.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to watch that again. I haven't seen it since it came out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
I wonder if that made anyone's list. I bet it
yeah,
didn't.
I'm
That would be
curious.
interesting. You're saying it, you got me going here. Henry, let's see. I bet not. We are looking in the book of top 10
Yeah,
horror lists to see if any celebrities picked. Who was the star of that?
what's his name? Michael Rucker.
Was it?
Michael name?
No, no one picked it.
No one.
No one picked it. And they picked weird ones. The house with laughing windows. I mean, I eat your skin, I drink your blood. You know, a lot of them were picked, but that wasn't.
That's my random one that most people are like, "What is that?"
Yeah, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Oh,
Uh,
no.
Number five. This is a newer one. X by Ty
Oh,
Webb.
great. I love the X series.
Love the series. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Love it, love it, love it, love it. And I also love Barbarian, which came out.
Bearing was amazing. Like last year was a good year for
This
horror.
was a banner year for great horror films. Yeah.
You got Pearl X Barbarian. Smile was even great.
Oh, it was great, no doubt. Yep.
Good year for horror. Where is that? Okay, number five is Phantasm. I don't
Oh, cool.
I don't hear a lot of people put that in their top 10, but I love Phantasm. I
It's
love
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a classic, no doubt. And I don't know if I love the whole series, but I
no.
love the first one for sure. Yeah.
Number six, the original Candyman. After that, everything else is shit, but the
Yeah.
first man was iconic.
Yes.
The original Evil Dead. Sam Raimi did a great job. I mean, just the dark grittiness of it. Of course, you got Bruce Campbell in it.
Yeah.
Couldn't top it from that point. The number eight, the original black and white George A. Romero, Night of the Living Dead.
I must tell you that on my book, I went with look, we got the iconic classics, right? Wolfman, Lon Chaney Sr., Bela Lugosi, Karloff, King Kong, Phantom, Psycho, Creature. And then we go to the bottom. We got Mummy, we got Pennywise, we got Linda Blair, and we got George Romero. He's the only non-actor that I had to put on the cover of my book.
I mean, he created zombies.
Yes.
Cool. He really did. There would be no Walking Dead or any of that if it wasn't for George.
Agreed.
Number nine is gonna give me some shit. Lost Boys. I love Lost Boys.
Who doesn't?
I love the Lost Boys.
You're not gonna get shit over Lost Boys. That's great. I visited. You know the song "I Ain't Got No Home." You know the song he sings in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
So that's this great R&B legend called Clarence Frogman Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in New Orleans, looked up his address, and visited him.
Really?
Yeah. Now his front lawn loaded with frogs. That's like his home is decorated. He welcomed me inside and showed me his collection and showed me gold records. And he was so proud of that being in the Lost Boys.
That is amazing. It's an
Yeah.
iconic movie. I mean, I was at Monster Mania. I was going to stand in line to meet Kiefer Sutherland, but I was like, I'm not doing this shit. The line was like wrapped around. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I'll see him in Still City at Pittsburgh in December. But
Okay.
number 10 is my. So I grew up on Freddy. I had a Freddy action figure when I was a kid. Loved Freddy. Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, Wes Craven.
Classic. Brilliant.
I don't.
Agreed.
I only like two movies in that whole entire series. The first one and Dream Warrior Part 3.
Yeah.
Everything else is shit, but Freddy Krueger is my favorite. I think he's an icon. I mean, he is the iconic horror
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
knows who Freddy Krueger is.
So when you think of your Halloweens and your Friday the 13th, I think, those appeal to horror fans and they won't appeal to a non-horror fan. But if you show them Nightmare on Elm Street, a horror fan's going to, of course, cream in their pants, but a non-horror fan will appreciate it and respect it for its suspense, for its, layers of, the dreams, it's a classic.
It's a classic, and I'm surprised that's not on a lot of people's top 5 list. The original Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean,
Because it's taken for granted. It's
it is-
like in certain movies that oh yeah, of course. Well, of course it's on my list. I just didn't put it on my list. You're right, because
Uh-huh.
it's in our conscious as one of the greats.
Definitely one of the greats. All right, listen. All right, Charles, give everybody, where can we find you on social media?
Find me here next to what's his face. Yeah, thanks. We got the book of top 10 horrorlists.com.
Mhm.
Please buy a copy. You'll love it. The True Ghost Stories of Connecticut book, which we really just touched on, you can get that through www.paranormalconnecticut.com. The Biggie, the big Dracula tour, our Dracula tour to Transylvania, and the website is www.dractours.com. And the upcoming event in Salem, Massachusetts is the Salem Paranormal and Horror Convention, and the website is salemparacon.org. So visit all those and say hello, and hopefully I'll see you at a future event. And we won't miss each other. We'll be at the same event, and we'll know it next time.
Exactly. I'm assuming it's going to probably be I don't know if you could. By the way, real quick, I'm gonna have the links to all those in my description, so check them out.
Great.
But I'm assuming it's probably going to be, unless you go to one of the Monster Mania, it's probably going to be chiller in April.
Right. Unless you come to my Salem show in November, it'll probably be chiller in April. Yes.
Yes. But I'm being serious. Next year, Transylvania.
I see everyone off at the airport. So I will give you a goodie bag. I will give you your tickets. I will tell you that this keep saying over and over, this is only a vacation. This is only a vacation.
As soon as I get off of this, I'm literally going to start Googling because I'm just curious. I just want to look at it, see.
Yeah, visit the dractours.com website and I tell everyone, go to tour reports, because you get to read people what they did in order, each year, and sometimes it changes, but it's mostly the same. But you get to see the pictures, and it's like, oh my God, I want to be at that castle. I want to take that picture. I want to cross over to the monastery and visit all these places. Yeah, for a monster fan, a horror fan, a Dracula fan, a vampire fan, it's the Holy Land, the unholy land.
It's the bucket list. I mean, it's right there. I have a bucket list of places, horror places. Like a couple years ago, I got to go to the actual Camp Crystal Lake in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So it's like one of the things you got to check off your bucket list if you're a horror fan. And by the way, both of your books are on Amazon as well, right?
They are, yeah. The easiest way to get them, and you want to get the free shipping, Amazon.com. Both books, you just type in the names of the books and they'll come up. But if you want a signed copy, that's why I give the websites.
Or they want the signed copy.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Same here.
Because I'm going to get your book. I wish I would have got it this weekend. Saved on the shipping, but
So we did it. We connected. That's
but would it be cool if I would have had the book right now, if we were met and I had the book right now showing it on camera. Like, yeah, I just met him. Autographs. Pretty cool. But I'll see you next time. And I'm definitely getting your book too. I'm probably just going to get your book and just have you autograph it next time I see you.
Cool.
So, yeah. And definitely Dracula Tour. Check it out, guys. This has been an amazing interview, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to enter the horror realm.
I appreciate it, my friend. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the horror room. I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time. You take care.